We are continuing our journey through my latest book, Value Me, Benefits of Being a Highly Sensitive Professional. And this time we are looking at chapter 5, which is Do It Your Way. Now, every one of us is unique. Nobody else has your particular combination of skills, talents, abilities, and experiences, or knows the best way for you to do something. Author and psychologist Elaine Aron's research shows that highly sensitive people pick up on a lot more sensory information than other people do, and they process it more deeply. They also tend to be very intuitive and much more aware of subtleties, noticing things that other people don't. I'll read an excerpt from the book, starting at page 32. If you try to fit in with what everyone else is doing, or what other people tell you you should be doing, you'll probably feel extremely frustrated. But more than the frustration, if you don't honour yourself and what you know to be right for you, it stifles your energy and your creativity. You have to be yourself and do things in the way that feels right for you. Don't expect others to understand this. If they are not HSP, then they won't. Ask yourself questions like, does it bring results? Does it enable you to be more efficient? Does it increase your productivity? Does it allow you to do more in less time? Does it produce a better result? Those are things that matter, not whether or not other people understand it or say that it's right. I do know from experience that it can be very difficult, particularly in a work situation, to do something your way when everyone else is telling you something else, or when you know that it's going to disrupt things. But I've had many experiences, and I'm sure you probably have too, where I've really known that something is not right or something should be done a different way, and I've tried to tell people who haven't listened, only to find that further down the road they ended up having to do what I had suggested earlier, only they've now wasted so much time and effort. Now, several years ago, I started a professional women's networking group, and I was the president of that organization. Now, my friend Karen, who is actually the one who suggested that I start the group, she was the vice president, and she had made it very clear to me right from the beginning that she never wanted to be president. That was our agreement when we started. After the group had been going very successfully for 3 or 4 years, I was driving to our monthly meeting one evening, quite happily in my car, music playing, looking forward to seeing everyone, when I suddenly, it just had an insight, and I'm not sure quite how to describe it, but I can only say it was simply a knowing. In that moment, I knew that I had to step down as president, and not only that, but that Karen should become president of the organization. To say I was taken completely by surprise is an understatement. I was taken completely by surprise because this isn't something I had thought about before. It came completely out of the blue, and I knew how Karen felt about not wanting to be president. So it was not something I would think of or ever think of saying to her. So of course, I questioned it in my mind. I thought, yeah, this can't be right. But I knew that it was. I just knew it. I didn't know how or why I knew this. I didn't know why this should happen, but I did know that for whatever reason, it was the right thing. And this made me very nervous because I felt in many ways that I would be letting people down by doing this, but I knew that I had to. So at our next board meeting, as we were all sitting around the boardroom table, I gathered my courage. And I told my fellow board members what had happened and what had to happen. Everyone was silent, and as I looked around at their stunned faces, I told them that I didn't know why, but I told them that I knew this was right. And now I had spoken to Karen about it before. I had announced it to everyone else, and I knew she was very unhappy with me. I looked at Karen and I could see just how upset she was. I told her I was sorry that this wasn't coming from me, that this wasn't my plan, but I did know it was the right thing. I told them that I wouldn't step down right away, that we would have an adjustment period. And so eventually everyone agreed, although I could tell they weren't happy about it at all, especially Karen. And this certainly sent the board meeting in a completely different direction, as we now had to make the necessary arrangements and to let the members know. Now, soon after we'd had this discussion and arrangements were underway, I learned that my husband had been offered another job in a different state, so we would be moving away. This is when things started to become a little clearer. At the time, obviously, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I would have had to step down as president anyway, since we would be moving. So this is why it was the right decision. And Karen stepped into the leadership role that she never wanted. Just as I had once been, she wanted to be behind the scenes, not center stage. But at my urging, she did it. And she's since told me that it was very traumatic for her because standing in front of the room was so hard for her. But now she does it regularly and she is very comfortable in front of a group. She has a lot of valuable wisdom to share, and she has gone from strength to strength. And she told me recently that she is very grateful that I listened to my intuition and that I could see what she couldn't see. Her true value, that she could do this and she would be good at doing this. So eventually the reasons why I had received that insight became clear. First, because although I didn't know it at the time, I was going to be moving. And second, it was because it was important and valuable for Karen to be able to become comfortable in front of a group. So she had challenged me years earlier, in fact, to start the group, and now I was challenging her to be more visible, and it is one of the best things that happened to her. And it did take a lot of courage for me to share my insights with the board that day, because I knew they wouldn't understand why. I didn't even understand why, but I trusted my insight. I knew it was right, and I'm happy to say they trusted me. So when you have a strong sense about something, that feeling that something should be done a certain way, something has to happen, you must trust yourself and go with it. And this is true both professionally and personally. So let me ask you, is there something going on where you have insight into how things should be or how things should be done, but other people don't see it? And maybe you just need to trust yourself. Just think about that. I will see you next time for chapter 6 of my book, Value Me, being the benefits of being a highly sensitive professional. And I'll see you then.